Greetings and welcome back to Doctor Who Revisited, where I go through every single episode of Doctor Who from 1963 all the way up to 2022 and review them. And now we are on the season 9 finale of classic Doctor Who with the Time Monster. And oh boy, you can really tell that these season finales are getting bigger and the stakes are getting higher, and I just love it. I'm all here for it. I love the season finales, especially in the John Pertwee era in particular. And oh, guess what? It's another master story, which is even better. So this episode really just starts out with a bang by showing us the Doctor's nightmare of seeing the future or images of the future. The Doctor getting the crystal of Atlantis and everything falling apart around him, and then that's a great way to start off this 6-part serial, and I really like it. I wish we got to know more of the Doctor's nightmares being actually visions of potential futures. That's not something that we do get into a lot with Doctor Who for some reason. The Doctor's dreams being premonitions of what's to come. I wish we get to see more of that. I mean, there's so much potential that could be done. You could just have entire seasonal arcs just based around what the Doctor, rather a dream that the Doctor had. You know, like in the modern series in series 6, where it opens with the Doctor being assassinated at Lake Silencio, and then the rest of the season just is leading up to it. That could be another interesting point. You have the series, or rather, a series start with the Doctor having a nightmare of things to come, and then the rest of the season or series having episodes leading up to it. That could be an interesting prospect. I don't understand why they don't do that. I mean, we don't really get to see the Doctor dreaming much in other seasons or series, regardless. So, I mean, that's just. You're sitting on a gold mine that you're just not using it. But whatever. So we're back at unit. The last couple of episodes, no unit presence whatsoever. In fact, pretty much this entire season, very low on the unit stuff. I mean, we had unit in Day of the Daleks, the season opener, and then unit was mostly a no-show for the rest of the season until this episode. So it's great that we're finally back on Earth, back on Unit HQ with the Brigadier and Mike Yates and John Benton. I think that's a really, really great usage of all these unit characters. I said this, I think, during the second Doctor's era a lot, and the first Doctor as well, is that when you have a large group of companions, or in this case assistants and sidekicks, it really is a testament to how good the writing is when each of these characters has something to do, and that something is different. So, like, for the majority of the episode, the Brigadier is with the Doctor and Joe. John Benton, gets turned into a baby in this episode. Mike Yates almost dies by the hand of the Master in his control of the time crystal thingy. So it's a really good usage of all three of these unit characters without necessarily making all three of these characters story arcs in the serial exactly the same, which is great. I love when they do that with multiples of multiple companions. I like it's a great balancing act between all the different side characters. But so it's another one of those episodes that takes the Doctor and friends away from their usual comfort zone, which is Unit HQ, to a different location, and basically the majority of the serial takes place in that different location. I like that. I like the two scientists in this episode. They're really good one-off characters. I like the one of them basically turns into Fred and George from that one scene in Goblet of Fire where they try to trick the age line by Dumbledore. I like that, and this could have been an interesting story arc for the character if it hadn't, being reversed very, very quickly in the episode. And I love how this episode really plays with time a lot, both in aging someone up or aging someone down, or just basically slowing down time, including speech as well. So yeah, I think there's a really good usages of messing with time in this episode. But back to the main threat of the episode, the Master. Like, this is another Master story. It's another really good example of how the Master uh, uses these myths and legends of the universe, like Kronos, the Chronovore, and using it to his advantage. It's another good highlight of how the Master essentially tampers with things that he thinks he knows everything about, but the episode itself just shows how little he actually does know about these things. Where he thinks he can control Kronos, he thinks he can put Kronos under his thumb and just uh, throw him out whenever he wants to and attack whoever he wants to whenever he wants to. But that is not really the case, because Kronos is too powerful for even the Master to control. And this episode is a great highlight of that. And I love that once we actually get thrown from modern day Earth, or rather modern day at the time, all the way back to ancient Atlantis. I love the look of Atlantis. This is another time. This is, I think, the second time we're being thrown into Atlantis in Doctor Who. The first time obviously was with the Underwater Madness, and this the second time is right here. I love the set design of Atlantis. I love the costume design. I love the background design, even though we don't necessarily get to see the full city as it is. I like the when you look out some of the windows, you see this big long. I think might have been a printed curtain showing us the rest of the city. I like that. They really made the city look great, and I love that the Master can hypnotize the people in Atlantis. He sort of is forced to rely on his other talents of persuasion and keeping his wits about him. I love the king character, the King of Atlantis character. I love the Ingrid Pitts character in this episode. Oh my goodness, they knew what they were doing when they cast her, and the just the makeup and the costume design, just her presence in this episode demands your attention, no matter who you are. It's a great foil for the Master. I love that she basically is fooled by the Master's charms, but by no means does that mean that she is a slave to the Master's charms. Like, she puts the Master in his place when she needs to, and it's great. Like, you might be the Master, but you're not the master of me, type thing. And I love when the Doctor and Joe are captured and hold prisoner in Atlantis. I love the Doctor giving the story of the Hermit and the blackest day of his life. I wish we get to know more about that incident. Like, he does mention that it was the blackest day of his life. Joe asks him why. He just goes, "That's a story for another day." I wonder if that's when he learned about the hybrid, when he went into the catacombs beneath the Eye of Harmony, which we've learned by the 12th Doctor. Maybe there's some connection there. And obviously, it does mention that he stayed there for about 3 days or something like that. So, could this be when the Doctor found out about the hybrid? That's when he went to see the Hermit? Who knows? I mean, Doctor Who continuity is always what we believe wobbly, timey wimey. So this could be it. But again, just every time we get to learn more about the Doctor's childhood, I love it. Obviously, right now, thanks to the Timeless Child, we know probably more than we should have known, but whatever. So at least we get to know more about the Doctor's backstory, and every time we get to learn more about the Doctor's backstory and just uncover this mysterious enigma that is the Doctor, I love it. Don't give us too much like the Timeless Child, but give us enough to go on to keep us interested and satisfied that we keep on watching. And of course, obviously, the Hermit is a character that finally shows up later in the John Pertwee era, actually towards the end of the John Pertwee era. And I like it's a really good setup for that character. It's really great foreshadowing. But yeah, so it's other than that, it's the rest of the story. It plays out just the same as a traditional Doctor Who third Doctor story. I mean, the Doctor tinkers and creates a machine out of basically nothing about stuff lying around. The Brigadier is very skeptical. The Brigadier raises all these armed forces to go on a massive assault that never actually happens because, well, budget, I guess. But speaking of budget, I love the usages of the Master bringing stuff from all of history, using the crystal to slow down the unit forces, and I like the fight scenes there. I love that we actually get to see Darth Vader, or rather, sorry, David Prowse as the Minotaur. Interesting. Last episode we had Lobot in Doctor Who. This episode, we have Darth Vader in Doctor Who. Before he was Darth Vader, obviously. But unfortunately, it's a very, very quick scene. It's almost a blink and you'll miss it. But, so yeah, David Prowse, Darth Vader, was in Doctor Who at some point. So it's a nice, fun novelty there. But, other than the stuff I mentioned, there's really not much to talk about this episode. There really isn't much to tell. I will touch on the fact that this probably gives us arguably one of the worst TARDIS interior designs of all time. The salad bowl design, as I usually tend to call it with my friends. I mean, the console pretty much stays the same as it always has been, just the walls. I'm like, why? What were they thinking with that design? It's ugly. I'm sorry. It's not very appealing, and the fact that we get to see that both with the Doctor's TARDIS and the Master's TARDIS, it's hard to look at, even though it's one of the greatest TARDIS moments in Doctor Who, with the Doctor materializing his TARDIS inside the Master's TARDIS, and the Master's TARDIS is inside the Doctor's TARDIS, and they have this cool back and forth between each other, which was referenced in the Curse of Fatal Death years and years later with a then relatively unknown Stephen Moffat. Yeah, it's a really funny scene. It's a great interaction between the Doctor and the Master. It's just, it's unfortunate that it has to come at the expense of having us look at this horrible, trashy looking TARDIS design. So if the TARDIS design would look better, it would have made a much better looking scene. But it is what it is. I like the design of the Master's TARDIS on the outside. It's another good example of the Master's TARDIS taking on the form of something from that environment, which is something that TARDISes are supposed to do. But whatever. So, and I love the scene very near the end with Kronos. And again, it's another one of those examples of Joe actually saving the day because the Doctor didn't have it in him to kill her. It happens a lot of times in the Doctor Who era. It's another really good example of why Joe is such a great Doctor Who companion, because she doesn't fall into that damsel in distress model too much. I mean, she does get captured and kidnapped by the Master a lot, but at the end of the day, it's her selfless sacrifice that ends up saving the Doctor and the world. And it's great. It's something that some of the best Doctor Who companions do. Unfortunately, certain companions do that to the extreme and really go overboard with it. I'm not naming any names here, but if you know me, you know exactly who I'm referring to. But this is, again, another example of a Doctor Who companion saving the day without it going to their head too much. Let's put it that way. And again, people who know me know exactly who I'm talking about and what I'm talking about. But let's move past that, because we get this great scene of the Doctor and Joe talking to the female form of Kronos. It's a really good moment between the Doctor and Joe, and this omnipowerful godlike being. It's another thing. It's another staple of Doctor Who. Just the Doctor having a casual conversation with a mega powerful godlike being as an equal. And I love the exchange between them of the Doctor saying to Kronos, "Wait, you know me?" And Kronos just says, "Of old." So, like, this could be another hint towards the timeless child thing. Maybe whatever Kronos is the same species of what the Doctor originally is, the timeless child. Whatever that species might end up being, who knows? Maybe they're one of the same. Maybe Kronos is the Doctor's mother. Who knows? But it's interesting to think about. It's interesting food for thought for us Doctor Who fans to ponder. And I like that the Doctor basically falls onto his old, shall we say, blind spot that he has for the Master. Is like so he asks Kronos for one final favor, which is to spare the Master's life, and of course the Master does what he does: is he tricks him and goes away stock free. So yeah, it's another great example of the Doctor going out of his way to protect the Master and save the Master, and the Master showing his gratitude by being completely ungrateful and running away. So it's another. I like that. It's another uh, look at the complicated dynamic between these two Time Lords, these frenemies. They used to be friends, now they're enemies, and then they were friends again. And it's the Doctor and the Master is one of the greatest dynamics in Doctor Who of all time, one of the greatest back and forth between protagonist and antagonist in science fiction and fiction in general. So that's why I love it so much. But yeah, it ends on the funny scene of John Pendon transformed back into his regular form, and everyone's laughing at him because he's naked. So yeah, funny way to end a Doctor Who season finale, but yeah, it's a really really good season finale, and I love it. I love all the different elements taking place in it, and yeah, it's another great way to end on the this season, and we're getting very close to the end of the Doctor's exile, and I can't wait to talk about that in the next season. But that, of course, as I mentioned, is in the next season. So thank you for watching. If you have, let me know what you think about the Time Monster in the comments below, and see you next season, I suppose. So until then, everybody, I am the Master, and you will obey me. You will obey me and only me. Hi there! Thank you for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. I'll see you next time.